Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy, C-I-Z-Z-Y, a.k.a. Coach Stutzer, live action on another episode of the Voices of Value podcast, episode 175, again with our co-host, Milad Ghasempour, to the right of me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day because it's the second day in a row that it has been warm, that the temperature has been mild, and that it hasn't been extremely freezing cold. And because of that good dayness, it means that I have to ask for a favor. And that favor doesn't line up with, it's like, good day, ask for a favor. Anyways, but because it's a good day, I'm in a good mood to ask for a favor. And that favor is a favor that you might already know, which is to press the subscription button, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you guys have been slowly easing us up there. I think we started off at 150 since we started doing this new setup and partnering with No Solutions. And we got up to 167 now. We're moving our way up, but y'all moving too damn slow. I know more than you. I know, we get, 10 people pop on. All 10 of y'all should be subscribing. I don't care if you watch 7 seconds or 70 minutes of the show. Subscribe, baby. Support your local podcasters. Anyways, moving on to the conversations of the day. First and foremost, I'd like to shout out trendsetters. The reason I'd like to shout out trendsetters is because I got an opportunity to be a creator? A TikTok creator, a creator influencer. What do they even call it? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But long story short, there was a brand, and I got to help make the TikTok / Instagram / short form content to promote this brand. And I was like, you know what? It's actually not that easy to be a creator in the creator economy. And like how they, especially these ladies out here, they'll like literally have like a notebook like this from Dollar General, and they'll be like, this is the best notebook in the country because I like to write my notes in here, right? We just think we know the things to say, but they make that shit sound so pretty and elegant, and like how they do it on camera. They have like they pretty nails done, and then they just like open it up, and then the lighting is perfect, and then it's like a nice written message already. Anyway, shout out to the creator economy. Shout out trendsetters, because I'm out here trying to get my creator skill set up. So want to start off with that, but yo, right before we came here, you were dealing with quite the predicament, should be the word. Pause. Would you like to share what you ran into? Shout out to Bahrain.
Yeah, shout out to the hustlers in Bahrain. Yes, just before we got here, I was dealing with something that I was alerted of this morning, and was not too alerted by it. Didn't seem too unusual. Facebook is just kind of that way. But yes, the situation at hand. Yes, my Facebook account got hacked. And not just my Facebook account, but also my ad account. Just down bad. But not out, but down bad. And so, had a campaign running. And they straight up just copied the exact name of that campaign and put their own ad creative on there. Still running it through the page that I have, that I'm running these leads, this campaign through, and added themselves as a friend, added themselves as the ad account manager, and they were everywhere. And what ended up happening is they ended up running a couple $100 in an afternoon. In about a 6-hour period, they racked up a good bill, and I had to go in and figure that out. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, that explains why I was getting a security alert this morning when I'm trying to log into my own account and telling me to use the Authenticator app. But I'm like, well, that's not how my two-factor authentication is set up.
You got hacked, boy.
I got hacked.
You got hacked, boy. And then you had to restart all your passwords over the past 2 hours. You planned on doing some other productive work, but instead got whatever the correct grammar is, taken over by the tasks at hand, which is protecting your Facebook ad accounts and other potential accounts that they could hack.
Yep, email, Facebook,
and
bank
what
account.
I always wonder if they're like, this is just a test hack. They test this out. If there's no response and they're able to do it, nothing, and they don't get like immediate backlash or something like that, then they're like, bet, we about to attack his next page. And then if they're like, okay, cool, tested these two out, we going for his bank next.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that's how they be doing it in the movies. So shit, maybe they do it like that right now.
I was wondering like how I didn't get alerted about any of this. They just simple. Once they got in, they just turned off all those notifications. It's like, oh, how convenient.
They're very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
So anyway.
I always wonder if it's just like some 13-year-old that's just like chilling, just learned how to do this shit on YouTube over the past 10 years.
Well, according to the individual who added themselves as a friend, they're a software developer at Facebook. So, based in Bahrain.
What if the software developer based in Bahrain is actually a real employee of Facebook based in Bahrain that hacked your account? How crazy would that be?
Yeah, well, I got the screenshots, so
well,
they can
that'd be
deal with
wild.
that.
We'll see how that goes. On the topic of scammers, one of our main segments today is 23andMe and the exposure of some data, I believe. Would you mind diving into this, considering we're talking about hacking and scamming already?
Yeah.
Lovely
topic.
Let's just talk about everyone in Grand Rapids, Michigan right now that's scamming. Let me chill on y'all. My bad, y'all. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 23andMe can't believe it. 6.9. So, yeah, 6.9 users. Data was
6.9 million.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
6.9 million users.
6.9 million users. Data was leaked. So about roughly half of the user database. Now you're like, whoa, that's a big leak. Well, that's kind of how the network at 23andMe is set up, right? There are features that allow you to get access to your potential relatives through, genetic matching.
Mm-hmm.
So they will take all of your information that they have on you and say, who could potentially be your relative, or who are you 47th cousin with? And they'll connect all that data. So apparently they got access to 14,000 profiles. And apparently this information was not leaked from 23andMe, but they got this information just on the dark web, I guess. And they got those credentials and logged into these 14,000 accounts. And because all these accounts are interconnected, they ended up getting the data of about half the user base.
That's crazy. All right, so when we think about 23andMe, they have essentially genetic data on human beings to kind of decide who's your relative from the past, who's your relative right now, is your dad really who you thought they are, like all these type of things. But when somebody hacks the data, what are some potential danger cases and dangerous side effects or impacts of somebody hacking that data? That's what I'm wondering. I can't think of, it sounds like it's very vulnerable, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. What are you going to do with that data?
In terms of as a hacker?
Yeah, what are you going to do with that data? You can sell it, but you only can sell it so many times. It's okay, but say it finally gets to the person who wants to use it for something. What are they going to use it for?
Well, consumer health data is very, very valuable.
Why?
Well, you can sell people products and services based on just the predispositions that they have genetically. So if you are predisposed to being anemic, I'm going to sell you a bunch of iron supplements. And I know that about you, and I can get you to buy my iron supplements because you need them. Or you're predisposed to specific types of cancers, right? We know that about you. So now we can use that information. Insurances can use that information to up your rates and, use those as what do they call them? Pre-existing conditions, right? Mm-hmm. To up your rates for that types of stuff. So it's very dangerous. You can, especially if you're referencing that information to others that are in that database, you now know how the whole human genome is connected, right? Because we're all technically related in some capacity, right? Because we're all 99.9% the same. It's just all the little things that make us up for physical characteristics. But I'm still a Homo sapien, just like the rest of us. So,
well, my question is, okay, sure, that makes sense, but it's not these insurance companies or it's not Inside Tracker that's buying this data off the dark web. So how does that become beneficial? Are you trying to say that there's people who are business owners who are really just scammers who will sell a product based off the data that they hacked or bought off the dark web? Or how is that dark web data or information getting in the hands of larger companies. You get what I'm saying? I'm just like, because I still don't see the benefit. You get this access to this data. You're a random hacker. You're, in my head, you're most likely not a founder of some company.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about the way that the U.S. law is set up is that your fingerprints are not in any databases until you commit a crime. And if you are processed through any sort of jail, you're going to be fingerprinted and admitted. And at that point, your fingerprints are in the system, and they can now be used in any sort of crime scene. They will just, anytime they find fingerprints, they run into that database, and because you've been processed through that system, your prints will be matched against anything on a crime scene. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've never been processed through that, you wouldn't know that. But because 23andMe has that genetic material information, they can actually, and they did this with a serial killer out of California. I want to say it was like his niece was on 23andMe and submitted her information, and they got a court order and got that information subpoenaed through 23andMe to match his, I think his spit, or snot or something. They got a tissue out of his trash can and matched that information against his niece who was through that system. Totally legally, because they had a subpoena order for that information, and they got the guy. And he had been on the run for like 20 plus years.
So technically, people could use it to their advantage, like in crime scenes, or to like, claim that they're your father, then for you to send them money or something like that. Essentially, you're saying these are some, because I don't know. I'm still struggling to see why somebody would go through all the trouble.
Well, I think health is like a huge part of our everyday interactions, right? Like the things that you eat, the natural deficiencies that you have as an individual, and the supplementations that you might need just to sustain like a normal level of homeostasis. You might need calcium. You might just naturally lack that nutrient. You might need that to be at a regular healthy level. And if they know that, then they can run ads against you and manipulate that information just because you're genetically predisposed to that. So we're talking about like how many steps you get in a day. We're talking about what your resting heart rate is, what your heartbeat rate is per minute, how many beats per minute you have, what your breath pattern is, how many breaths you have per minute. We can know all this stuff, and because we have so much data just about what leads to diabetes, what leads to asthma, what leads to people they're overweight, right? We have that weight information. We have their dietary intake for their nutrients. We know all of that, and we can use that to sell them more things, or use that to just manipulate their behavior to buy our products.
Would you do 23andMe? Why or why not?
No, I wouldn't do it.
Why not?
For the reason of the California killer. I don't want my prints in the system unless I do something stupid and I fuck up. I'm not going to voluntarily have that in a database that the government can access just because they, do a court order for it.
Interesting. I always wonder how many serial killers I walk by in like a week, or like how many murderers, or like people who got away with the crime. Because if you think about it, like even in Kansas City, if we Google it right now, there's probably like over 100 plus or 200 unsolved murders.
You didn't see the 3 fugitives walking around? I saw this headline. 3 fugitives were walking around on the FBI's wanted list, just walking around Kansas City the other day.
No, didn't see that, but makes sense. That's what I'm saying. I wonder how many. You're just like chilling, you're walking around, you're at the plaza, you're eating, or you're sipping on a boba drink, a nice little milk tea, To your left is a serial killer who has approximately 21 bodies from 1980. To your right is a murderer who killed your second cousin that you really just didn't know. And you just in the coffee shop with them, and then you see them at the same coffee shop every day. Maybe they're your barista.
I feel that way about priests.
About priests?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
No doubt. Yeah. A little unhinged there, but I mean.
They ain't unhinged. There's definitely a hinge pattern. Yep. Most definitely. Okay, well, 23andMe data breach, 6.9 million users, data leaked. Essentially, the company claimed there was no data breach evidence found, but it was purchased off the dark web. Essentially, the real question is, how can we how can these companies, like, well, not how can these companies, but who is going to come in and benefit off of what happened there? So if that's public, that just comes public, 6.9 million, users, data leaked, whatever. What cybersecurity company is going to leverage this information to go in there and secure like a multi-billion-dollar deal with 23andMe? That's what I always wonder when we see big situations like this. Like, who is going to win in this situation? Obviously, the people who, whose data is leaked, lost. Obviously, the company has taken an L from a PR standpoint, but who's going to take a win? Like, who's going to leverage this negative news to turn it into a business opportunity, turn it into, a bag, or turn it into, or police officers turning it into a case closed? Who benefits from crazy situations like these? And you really don't ever know until, like, a few months down the line when somebody shares their business story on fucking My First Million podcast. Like, this is how we got our $1 billion deal.
Right. Yeah, I think the real winners are going to be two-factor authentication systems.
And break that down. 2FA, because honestly, I seen that in the notes. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Two-factor
authentication system. All right, what is that?
So two-factor authentication is just you put in your password and like, all right, cool, that's the right password. But now we need another step for you to verify this is you. So we can call you and like give you a code over the phone. We can send you a text message. We can send you an email code. They have apps for this. So Google Authenticator is one. I use Duo Authenticator. Basically, they're connected to that system. So they would be connected to your 23andMe account. You would log into that. Typically, you'd actually just use your phone and scan a QR code. And then it'll say, all right, cool, you're good to go. So now when you request a two-factor authentication code, it'll actually randomly generate a number 6-digit code for you, and you can just use that. And that code resets every 30 seconds. So it's not like it just sends it to you. You can log in at any given moment, and you'll have a brand new, fresh code.
Interesting. So don't you find that to be a little inefficient, as in it takes longer to sign in, kind of annoying? You just want to log into your account really quick. Now you have to wait for the text to come through. Maybe you're not getting the best service, so it takes 5 minutes. Or maybe it doesn't come through, so now you have to press resend. Press resend. It takes another minute to come through. All you're trying to do is just log into your account to get something handled really quick. Don't you feel like that's like a hurdle in that lane, or do you feel like people just care enough about security that they don't think twice about it? Because personally, I definitely think twice about it. I fucking hate that shit. When I log into my bank and they're like, we have to call you first and give you a 6-digit code. I hate when I log into my bank account and it's like, or when I log into an email like from Safari and it's like, go to your Google, your Gmail app and confirm this number. Like, I don't want to do all that. I just want to log into my account. I just gave you the right password. Just let me in. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think, or is there already platforms out there that just make it all efficient in terms of it's like a one-click sign-in, but it's two-factor in another way where it's like type in your birthday, type in this, and type it. I don't know.
I think it's totally a reasonable price to pay for the extra security. If you know how computers work, it is very easy for hackers to guess, a 6-digit password. Very easy. You can put that through a computer system and it'll guess it in matter of seconds. 7 takes a little bit longer, 8 even longer, 9 even longer. You throw special characters in there and, capital numbers and lowercase letters and stuff. Capital numbers. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Capital numbers. That's crazy.
So you throw that in there and it just gets more and more difficult and there's more combinations for the computer.
Especially capital numbers. Motherfuckers ain't never going to guess that one.
Never guess
Straight up. I think on one of our next episodes, we should break down the billionaire boys of cybersecurity and how they built their companies.
Great business.
But anyways.
I think one of the new technologies that they're rolling out is passkeys. So you'll actually see this on your iPhone or your MacBook. If you have the fingerprint scanner, that'll be like a thing to authenticate. Like you're trying to log into Google and you have two-factor on, just put your finger on there and it'll read your fingerprint. Like, okay, that's you. Or you're trying to do it on your phone and it'll say Face ID. Like, oh, okay, cool. We're good to go there.
Face ID is the best thing. They just need to figure out like a thumbprint, Face ID, and like an eye scanner so you can use that across, across a few different platforms.
But it's going to be a physical key, some sort of device that you'll use to authenticate everything. That's going to be the future. We're probably like 10 years out from that, but that's going to be like the new wave of security.
Interesting. So basically Apple is going to create that. And the reason they're going to create that is because all the motherfuckers know how to do nowadays is create all these small little freaking tidbits that they add in to charge double the price and make it harder for you to keep your iPhone of the past or keep. Anyways, I'm tired of all these new headphone jacks and these new this jack and this new plug-in.
We're there. We've reached the universal one.
Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah,
but we're there.
I don't know if we've talked about that before. Can you dive into that really quick about UK government had an issue with what they were doing? Apple was doing with the wire, so now they're about to change that up in 2024, I believe.
Yeah, basically the EU said that in 2024 we all need to use one charger, and that is going to be USB-C. So that's going to be the new USB. It kind of looks like the Lightning cable, but Android's been on it for a while, and it works the same as Lightning. You can plug it in both ways. Super easy to use. Your MacBook chargers were using this. iPads are switched over to this. AirPods, all devices are going to be switched over to this. Basically, they're tired of cable waste. They're like, man, you guys are just like inventing new ports, and we got a new cables, and there's just a ton of waste. Like the EU was like, no, we're going to stop that because the US, we don't really regulate like that. So they were like, all right, we're going to do this. And Apple's like, well, dang, selling in Europe's like 40% of our business. I guess we got to go do it. So they did it, and that's going to be the standard for now. There may be a better one, but right now USB-C is actually fast charging and data transfer as well. So you can plug that in and exchange files and data information through that cable as well as getting power to charge your device.
Haven't they always been able to do that with just plugging cables in the phone?
Not all cables are able to provide data transfer.
Why not?
Just the way that they're structured. Yeah.
I don't like
it's way
that.
too technical for me.
Hey. All you freaking computer geeks out there working at Microsoft, Google, Facebook, explain that to me in the comment section. We'll see how many Facebook employees we have listening to the podcast.
Yes.
Hey, shout out to any Facebook employees or Google employees or Microsoft employees that listen to the pod. I rock with you. We need all of you on the podcast, especially if your name is Sandeep. Anyways, so shout out to McDonald's because McDonald's is never, ever, ever satisfied with what they have. They're like so big. We see them in every single country, every single city, multiple times in the smallest towns in the world. But every year, like a typical large conglomerate business like that, they're looking to grow. And between now and 2027, they are looking to open nearly 9,000 restaurants, and they're trying to add on 100 million loyalty, loyalty members.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah. It sound like rookie numbers until you start trying to count to 100 million. See how long that takes you. So loyalty members by 2027. So this is the first time, and I believe they released this earlier this week, but it's the first time the company has disclosed the new development targets for, the next 3 to 4 years. They're essentially just looking to increase sales growth by, I think they said 4%, and their number one avenue, or let's say vehicle that they plan to do that through, is just through opening new locations, both domestically and internationally. So by 2027, I think they said that half of their sales growth, like the increase in revenue over the next 3 to 4 years, is going to come strictly from the opening of new locations and the leveraging their loyalty members. They just launched that loyalty membership thingy in 2020 or just before 2020, or really went all in on it.
You're talking about like the Daily Deals app? Or
Yeah, I think it's the little Daily Deals app. I think they launched during the pandemic or just started going all in on it during the pandemic, and it's proved to be like a huge aspect of their business growth over the past few years.
Scam, but yeah.
They have like new ways that they're trying to like get people to utilize the app or win points inside of the app, and one of them is like watching sports games inside of the app. Have you heard about that?
No.
That's really confusing me. I've never downloaded the McDonald's app, but I honestly got tempted to download it to see what the fuck they were talking about.
So like just the American crossover there, like just culture.
They were like, okay.
Culture.
They were like baseball, American football, watch games inside of the app. I don't even know how that works. I didn't read too far into it.
Coors Light in there and just the trifecta.
And then the more games you watch, or the more ads you sit through, things like that, the more points you get inside of the app or some shit like that.
Must be doing like ad revenue then.
Yeah, they definitely got to be doing some ad revenue. That's probably where the money's coming from. They say it's helping what's it called?
Like fucking ESPN. Watch this 15-second video, but first a 30-second ad.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It makes sense.
That's the craziest thing I've heard of all time. Did you know that HBO, this is a little side tangent before I dive back in and finish on McDonald's, but did you know that HBO Max owns Bleacher Report, I believe, and then they have Bleacher Report Sports inside of the HBO Max like app on like Roku, and you can watch live NBA games.
Sick.
They also have like some of the Bleacher Report series. You remember when they did the Game of Thrones, but for the NBA? You know what I'm talking about? Bro, that's crazy. The little animated version of Game of Thrones, and everybody's like a different character. Like the Spurs are the zombies because they were old at the time, stuff like that. And they were like, Master Riley, what are we going to do? And he's like, I'm LeBron James. I'm the king. You know, it's kind of gangster. Honestly, go watch Game of Thrones, but I think it's called like something else. But Game of Thrones, but like there's a mix on it. It's like NBA version.
Is this like, oh, okay.
So there was a creator doing that. Then Bleacher Report, I believe, bought that content, and then HBO now owns Bleacher Report. So some of that content, as well as other podcast shows and things like that cover sports, are inside
so it's not
of
like
HBO
what the
Max.
NBA did or the NFL did with the Toy Story game.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, they like straight up like just put a overlay of Toy Story, so it's like characters. You can see like everybody's lined up against each other, and they're like for their toys from Toy Story. It was weird.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. Anyway,
wait, you mean on the field, like fucking?
No, like you know how like
Woody was a wide receiver.
Yeah, you know how they do the digital overlay where like you can see the line for like next down and stuff.
Yeah,
like that's not those yellow lines.
Yeah, they're not actually
on
the field. Yeah,
so they did an overlay like a filter to like animate everything as like Toy Story. It was kind of weird.
That's gangsta. I'm about to YouTube that, to be honest. But essentially, the McDonald's number one way to increase sales growth over the next 3 to 4 years is to open more locations. They're looking at southeast and southeast and just Southern America in general, and then they're also looking at China. Their CEO talks about how there's no reason that China shouldn't be damn near double the amount of locations than it is right now. I think right now they're at like 20,000. There's no reason we shouldn't be at like 30 or 35,000 locations in China. It just makes sense. They're starting to show that they're our biggest consumers when we look at our business. So they're like, there's no reason we shouldn't be killing it over there and increasing locations over there, as well as domestically in smaller towns. And then, like we talked about a few weeks ago, they're also looking to expand beyond their flagship restaurants with 10 Cosmix spinoff locations, starting with Illinois this week. So it might have already opened this week, but Cosmix, did you read more into that? I didn't actually read into what type of products they'll be or food and drinks they'll be providing there, but it's just going to be a different, still ran by McDonald's, but it's like it's not going to be like your standard McDonald's. It's going to be a whole new concept. So just like different restaurants, we've seen Taco Bell do it. We have Taco Bell Cantina. There's another Taco Bell style thing, but they're just different concepts inside the larger brand that introduces new foods, new colorways, new branding. And so McDonald's is doing the same thing to try to expand revenue. Go ahead.
I don't eat a Taco Bell. So what's this cantina business?
To be honest, I haven't been there, but ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this right now, you live in Kansas City and you party at Westport, you've definitely been there, because Taco Bell Cantina is that Taco Bell that's under the apartment building across from the Westport location here in Kansas City.
Like cafe style?
To be honest, it looks like it, but I really genuinely couldn't tell you because I haven't eaten in there either. But if you kind of drive around town, they've torn down a lot of old Taco Bells like throughout the metropolitan area and replaced it with a new branding, a new style. And I think some of these are like new concept locations like the Cantina, but some of them are just, it's just a rebrand, essentially. And I think McDonald's is just trying to explore what they can do because their branding is so powerful. I think they're not confident, like trying to do a full rebrand like Taco Bell's done with their visual, like, the visual and of the brick and mortars in their store locations. But they're like, well, we have a large enough, following that we probably could launch a concept location and see how that goes. So I thought that was interesting. I know all y'all be eating McDonald's out there going crazy. The most interesting thing I learned from reading up on this was McDonald's also announced a partnership with Google, aka Alphabet. So with Alphabet's Google Cloud, so Alphabet owns Google, and YouTube, I believe, right?
And a bunch of other stuff.
But those are the two main ones people are going to know. So with Alphabet's Google Cloud, and they plan to use its artificial intelligence across its restaurants to improve operations. So utilizing Google Cloud's AI to improve operations across their restaurants, they just announced that partnership as well over the past week.
AI's coming in and taking over the low labor jobs. Finally.
What do you think that's going to look like? I actually haven't watched many videos that like will pop up on CNBC that's like, this is how it could look if robots took your Taco Bell job or whatever like that. So is it essentially just like simple robotic machines that pick up burger, flip burger, squeeze burger together, and then like slide it over, and then it drops into a plastic bag, just like what is it called? A line? like at warehouses, warehouse line,
manufacturing line. Yeah,
a manufacturing line, but manufacturing burgers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Probably
And
look just like that.
they've been working on it at McDonald's over the past 5 years. How like little by little, each McDonald's I go into, I talk less and less to a worker.
Yes.
So most of the workers are behind helping with the making of burgers and like handling the drive-through, making ice creams, handling things back there.
They don't even take your order anymore.
But they don't really take your order anymore. They just call it out and then set it down. They don't even really wait there to hand you the food.
Now. People are just ordering through the kiosks.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I don't really like it.
No, I don't either.
I'm actually not a fan. I actually never was a fan of the, what is it called? The Quick Shop. Yeah. Remember how they launched that about 5-6 years ago, where locations like Hy-Vee, Price Chopper, well, not Price Chopper really, but Hy-Vee for sure. What other locations have a lot? I just think Hy-Vee, Whole Foods. Hy-Vee and Whole Foods, for some reason, is all that can come to mind in terms of like have massively, like everything is damn near, what is it called?
Self-checkout?
Self-checkout. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Walmart's that way.
Yeah, and Walmart. There we go. Target. There we go. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of that, man. I understand from a business perspective, but in reality, sometimes I just want to be helped.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Like, you got 2 items, you don't have to wait in line.
For sure. And they've tried to like curate it in that way where they say, 10 items or less, but they've kind of eliminated those signs. I don't know if you've been paying attention to that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are just like, fuck it. If you want to take all your stuff over there, go ahead.
Check yourself out and waste your time, go for it.
Yeah, and then they put like a little security over there and everything.
Yeah, they got one guy.
What?
I got one guy.
No, and it's not even one guy. It's like one 14-year-old girl that just got her first job. It's like, yo, shorty, what is you going to do? Like I'm going to be like, yep, this yogurt's mine. That's mine. That's mine. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm just going to put this PlayStation directly in my cart.
In my bag. What you going to do about it? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But we always love a good security guard at Walmart or Target or JCPenney that really, well, that too, but that really takes their job serious, more serious than they're allowed to. Because you actually, a lot of these places are not allowed to put your physical hands on people.
No, not at all.
But some of these folks, they don't play that. They said, nah, if I'm going to get this job, like I'm going to take my opportunity. You start to steal and you just see them pick them up, slam them. They start to trip them and shit. Or it's always like an old 70-year-old white guy named Dan that tries to like grab somebody's belt. No, you come back here, stealer. Yeah. It's like, I guess shout out to you, brother, but be careful now because I know you don't go to the gym, so it's dangerous. You might break a bone. Bone density weak, all right? Anyways, back to the topics of the
Cosmix.
day.
So Cosmix is a spinoff of McDonald's, and they're actually just spinning off the McCafe style.
What is
drinks.
that? McCafe. See, is that just their
the
like
frappuccinos,
like a coffee shop that they have?
They're gonna spin off, all the coffee shop products. They're gonna spin that off into Cosmix, and they're gonna use that to compete against Starbucks. That's basically the play here.
Oh, that's gangster.
They're like, we're kind of tired of people having to come to McDonald's.
That's funny because these
are really high margin products, and like people want that stuff. Coffee shops are all the freaking rage. Mm-hmm. Yes, coffee that is fucking bean water that takes 20 cents to make. Yes, that'll be $7.
And Starbucks is up there with the same amount of locations, like internationally with McDonald's. And I saw the CEO of McDonald's make a reference to Starbucks and their location, so it's obviously a competitor. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Starting off with just 10, see how it goes. Then if it goes decent, they probably going yay. I wonder if they how they did the market research for where they were going to launch those 10 locations though. Like, does that mean that the location that they initially launched in Illinois this week is like extremely popular for buying cafe items and like people just buy over, $1 million in McCafe items a year there, and that's their largest location. So they're
just pick the cities with the highest obesity rate.
Well, we know they're going to the Midwest. They ain't going to be in New York City, LA, or Miami.
The South for sure.
Mississippi and shit.
Probably like highest order purchase for fast food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably
interesting. Well, I want to check it out. So if I'm on a road trip, I'm definitely going to be checking it out. So let's talk about U.S. citizens hiding billions, a.k.a. millionaires and billionaires in the U.S. hiding billions, because we know damn sure it ain't, me. and where are they hiding these billions, Milad? They're hiding them in this Swiss bank called Bank Piquet and Sie. I don't know how the hell.
That was great.
I don't know how the hell to pronounce that.
The best Swiss accent I've ever heard.
I ain't going to lie, but it sounded like the Swiss thing to say. So, first off, shout out to Swiss cheese, which I don't even know if it comes from Switzerland. Second off, shout out to Swiss chocolate. They got some real good chocolate over there. Third off, I'm trying to go to Switzerland and go, on Instagram where they be showing you those beautiful. the Alps, and then you'd be riding the trains up in the Alps and stuff. You'd be seeing those little villages down
Swiss
there.
ski lodge,
I always thought I was gonna marry like a 6'2" white girl that was like a professional volleyball player that lived in the Swiss Alps. That was like my thought process when I was 16. Didn't happen.
You totally should still do that.
I think that can't happen, first and foremost. Second off, I've done the absolute reverse. I've married I've partnered up and plan on marrying
stealing all the short ladies.
A very short African woman who looks nothing like a 6'2" Swiss white woman who plays volleyball.
Not even close.
Nope. More like what do short people do for sports?
I will fight you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why you're not in the MLS, because all of them are 6 foot and above, pretty much, except
MLS?
a few of them. Yeah, I'm just saying, a lot of them are 6'1". Soccer players are like 6 foot and above.
The best soccer player in the world is
him.
Huge.
I mean, look, he got a little bit extra weight on him. He's a little bit of a thicker, small guy. You know,
he's 5'7".
He's 5'7",
and I think that's a stretch. I think he's really like 5'5.5".
Cristiano though, what about Cristiano?
Cristiano's 6'1".
Okay, and what about Mbappe?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and what about Ronaldinho when he played?
Short as fuck. Yeah, 5'7", 5'8".
Ronaldinho,
yeah, he's short.
He is short. Yeah, he is. No wonder.
That's what the Inyo means. It means small.
Interesting. Okay, and Pele was hella small. Pele was small.
Pele was like 5'10", maybe.
Yeah, he was
I don't
average.
think he was short.
Okay, and what about
Maradona?
Ibrahimovic.
Okay, he's not a.
What about the new white boy that's cold? What's his name?
Holland.
Yeah.
Is he Swiss?
He might be Swiss.
Holland. No, he's from Norway.
Norway.
Yeah, he's Norwegian.
Damn. Freaking snow.
Maradona was like 5'4". Cokehead. You know,
I bet you I can name 30 soccer players that was 6 foot and above of the greatest 50.
I don't think you can do that, but
you're right. I can't do it off the top of my head, but we might do that in a future episode. Moving on. So Swiss bank Banque. Oh, I think it just is bank, but in their spelling, Banque Pictet Entier is going to have to pay back, I believe, the IRS or US, the US, $123 million for aiding U.S. taxpayers in hiding over $5.5 billion, ladies and gentlemen. $5.5 billion. Now, in my humble opinion, if you're hiding $5.5 billion, you're probably making some money off hiding that, number one. Not probably. Guaranteed you're making money off the money that you're hiding for these people. And you only have to pay back $122 million. So what do you think that is? Like 5%? 3%?
5% of...
$5.5 billion.
$5.5 billion.
I'm about to do that right now.
1%.
First off, how many zeros?
1% would be 5 million. 1% would be 5 million.
1% would be.
So 5 to 100 is 20.
5 0 0 0 0 0. That's 5 million. 0 0 0. Oh, that's 5. It didn't let me go any higher. 500 million is the highest it lets you go.
Might as well just cut off a couple zeros.
Oh, shit.
Sideways.
Shout out to the producer. Okay. 5 billion. And then you multiply that by 10%.
By 0.1.
By times 0.1 equals 500 million.
Yeah.
So it's not even 10%.
No, it's not even 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are not mad.
Yeah. No.
They will pay that happily.
And that was between 2008 and 2014.
Correct.
Do you have any thoughts about that 2008 year? Does that have any...
Does it say anything? Yeah, it's called a fucking crash, right?
I think so. Is that what they call it?
I mean, I think a lot of bad things happen. I don't think
they call it a soft landing.
They sure don't. Yeah. We would say people were not happy in 2008. People were suffering. They was broke.
Crazy.
But some people were hiding their money. And they were hiding it in Switzerland, which is funny because this was announced in CNBC News the other day. And I'm like, why are we talking about things from 2014? Do you ever think about that when news articles come out and they're like talking about this was during this time frame, which was like 30 years ago? If it's murder, I understand. If it's murder, I understand. If it's, something, sexual harassment, I understand. But we're talking about some financial situations that happened 10, 15 years ago, and you're only going to make them pay back like 3% of what they hid. I feel like this shouldn't even have hit the news. I feel like they shouldn't have been charged, and this kind of just shows. Let me not say they shouldn't have been charged. That was a big step. But let me say that this shows how media and people who have to find stories literally just find stories to fill up these news outlets' websites. Because why is this even being mentioned? Why are we even talking about it?
I think that you're dealing with governments, and there's a lot of red tape when it comes to bureaucracy, especially in the U.S. You got the federal level, you got the state level, you got the county level, then you got the city level. So you got 4 types of levels of government that you're dealing with, and these corporations, these people, they live in cities and counties and states in the country. So you got to do all of that. Like, okay, we got taxes on the state level. You pay county taxes, all that stuff's there. So then you have to like do all the math across all this, and like, 2014, it's 9 years later that we're like, basically 10, it's December now, 10 years later that we're like actually putting all these pieces together. Yeah, it makes sense. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of people, right? We're not dealing with like just one organization. It's not like, the Meta lawsuits when they came out after, Cambridge Analytica leaked and all that. That happened and resolved itself over a course of like, I think 18 months later, we were like doing something about it and going through congressional hearings to like resolve that process. But yeah, you're dealing with $5.6 billion. Like, yeah, we got to figure out where all that went and who's involved with that. It's quite a situation.
Did you see the Harvard situation and Bill Ackman and the anti-Semitism? And did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so this was a crazy thing last week. I don't have all the information. I actually didn't even do the research, so forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. This is just some things I picked up from 5 minutes here and there on Twitter. I highly recommend that you go do your research on the situation. So Bill Ackman is a investor that I followed for quite a while now, and I saw him go on a little tweet storm, right? He created a little thread basically condemning the Harvard, MIT, and some of these other Ivy League schools, condemning them, but specifically Harvard, for not standing up against anti-Semitism and actually basically almost kind of... So basically what happened is there was anti-Semitism going on in the classroom from professors, and so they called them in to, have a little talk with Congress, or I don't know if it was with Congress, but some government set up, me, I don't be paying attention to the politic things, but they had them sitting down in front of people, the president or director of Harvard and a few other people, and they asked them straight up, they're like, all right, is calling for the genocide of Jewish people not bullying, like considered bullying on your campus? And they're like, they kept repeating, as long as it doesn't turn into conduct or basically action, then it is, in the middle ground. Yeah. And that's all they kept responding. And they were like, no, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you. So basically, internet went crazy because in a somewhat straight up, but somewhat not straight up way, they were like, look, if they don't actually act upon it and they're not actually striking or killing Jewish people on campus or hurting them or beating them up, or it's not physical or it doesn't turn into action, then they can pretty much say and do what they want. That's pretty much the energy they were giving out. So pretty much all of Harvard's Harvard's a private institution in terms of alma mater, and individuals who make a lot of money are who fund that school, essentially.
And tuition.
And tuition, obviously, and high tuition, and then reinvesting that money back and other things.
Funded by taxpayers.
Yeah. So a lot of the alums are coming out like...
It's basically a private company.
Yeah, a lot of alums were kind of like coming out and turning up on Harvard's...
Hey, you want this check still?
Yeah, exactly, on the institution. And they were trying to find out what students and what professors on campus, but specifically what students were like standing for this, essentially, and saying these type of things.
So we cannot hire them
at our big fancy consulting firms and things like that. So that's something big that's going on right now that I've been trying to follow on Twitter, but there's just so much writing that I could only handle so much. I kind of just watched the hearing or the court.
That's amazing.
Setups, and they was turning up on them, and then the MIT and Harvard directors were kind of like smiling with their answers. So people are like, obviously not liking the smiles and their non-direct answers that this is not okay. So pretty crazy situations going on. One thing I want to like completely pivot and ask you, just because it popped in my head because I listened to a podcast earlier and it had to do with Harvard. Then it was questions about money. Do you want to be rich?
Of course.
Why?
To help more people.
Okay, give me 3 reasons you want to be rich.
To help as many people as I can. Mm-hmm. To live the lifestyle that I want in terms of being able to have access to top talented, workforce, be able to do what I need to do because I have the resources and access to those resources to be able to do those things. And then also just to provide for not my ancestors, the opposite of ancestors, the people to follow me,
the people that follow you. Okay, so
my future family.
The first answer you gave, the first part of that was so that you can help people. In what way would you be helping people? Could you do that? Could you help people the same way without having access to capital? Why or why not? So, for example, right now,
it would take a lot longer.
Okay, in what ways would you like to help people right now? Like, what are 1 or 2 ways you'd like to actively help society right now?
I think people need more for first off business. I think businesses need a lot of help, especially as AI and technology just rapidly advances, and the way that consumers are expecting to interact with businesses is changing. I think there's a huge movement there to help businesses be more efficient and provide more value, while just making people's lives better by actually doing a little bit less. As weird as that sounds. So I think there's a huge play there. I think there's a lot of things in the government that could definitely be addressed. We just talked about this data leak with 23andMe. Like, why the fuck isn't the government like, hey, you're dealing with people's health data. 2-factor authentication? Yeah, that shit should be required. Oh, and by the way, you have to use this specific type in order for it to meet all these security protocols. That's just a very simple thing that we should be pressing Congress to do, right? Pass a law on that. That's very simple. And something that impacts people's lives on, we don't know the implications of this leak.
Right.
It's half the database.
Leaks, right.
It's 7 million people's freaking health information. Pretty big deal. Just stuff like that. I think there's plenty of ways and inefficiencies in the world that could be resolved just by connecting two institutions together and just being the middle between that, right? There's waste in this organization, but that waste is actually a product or a material that this other company needs in order to actually make their product. So just bridging the gap and turning this waste into, another man's trash is one man's treasure, right? So being the bridge of saying, okay, you're going to get rid of all this stuff and just throw it away into a landfill. Let's go put it into this other, company's, their supplies, right? And turn that into their product. I see so many people that are focused on that now because of just how vast the landscape is for the ways that you can get things. You can pretty much just go online and find anything. You can get it brand new. Not a lot of people are actually into this recycling endeavor. I see a huge play on that with clothes right now. I think clothes would be a huge opportunity.
And so your thought process is, these are some ways I'd like to help society. Sure, I could do it, with
capital
zero
inefficiencies. That's what I'm trying to say.
But with some capital, it would make it a lot easier to get access to the people, get access to the resources, get access to the tools that I need to expedite this process, or at least have more say in what's going on.
It allows you to do it faster, and it also allows you to do it on a bigger scale.
Got you. Okay, and then number 2, you said you would like to... Lifestyle. Okay. So you referenced inside of number 2, hiring the top talent, hiring top employees. But from a lifestyle perspective for you, what does a rich or wealthy lifestyle look like for Milad Ghasempour? How do you imagine that in your brain? What does a rich lifestyle for Milad look like?
Nice house, nothing crazy.
Let's get real specific because this is how we're going to wrap this up. So I want to get real specific.
A couple thousand square feet, a nice yard, maybe a little golf course in the back.
So 2,500 square feet, golf course in the back.
Somewhere in California with a good amount of land. I think there's more value in the land than there is in the actual property itself. I would build a complex. I think that would be my dream, that I would build sort of some generational wealth situation.
Okay, a complex as in...
So I would have a house, my parents would have their house, my siblings would have their houses, they would have their spouses.
So
there would be
definitely
like,
more than a couple thousand square feet.
well, for my own house.
Oh,
for
gotcha,
sure.
gotcha.
You know, we would have like a community center where there would be like, you know, a dining hall, and we could have events there, and there would be, you know, some you know, nature. There would be like a hiking trail, and there would be like a pond or a small lake that we could go, you know, out on the boat and, you know, throw the fish, whatever. I think
California state government, please inform us on how much you will charge for Joshua Tree. We will buy it. Give us 10 years. We will buy all of the land that Joshua Tree is on, or whoever owns that. And we plan to keep it beautiful. We plan to still allow people to hike on that land. But we just want to know the cost, you know, because we coming, and we coming fast.
And then on top of that, just being able to travel wherever you wanted to, like at a moment's notice, right? You're like, oh, I just found out that like this event is happening in Thailand. Like, I want to go there. Like, no big deal. Just book a plane ticket or, you know, charter a jet and just go.
So it sounds like land that you can build whatever you want on is pretty important for you.
Location freedom.
Location freedom, time freedom in terms of whenever I need to go, I can go. Wherever I need to go, I can go without having any extra worries.
Those are whoever I want to take with me.
With whoever you want to take with me. Okay, I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been yet another episode with your co-host, Milad Ghasempour, and me, Colin Stutzer. We talked a little bit about McDonald's. We talked a little bit about their plans for sales growth. We talked a little bit about 23andMe scamming and how data leaks and security breaches are still a problem, which makes me want to encourage a lot of you individuals out there listening right now to start to invest time learning about cybersecurity. If you're unsure of the direction you want to go for a career path, a great option might be going into a trade or going into a 2-year program. There's plenty of them provided here around Kansas City that have a heavy focus on cybersecurity. This industry is fast growing, a lot of good money. And if you're a smart business mind, on top of having the skill set, you might be able to build a company that can take care of your family for the generations to come. So cybersecurity, direction to look at, definitely investigate more about that. Maybe look more into the 23andMe data breach and see what you can learn from that situation. And then we talked a little bit about taxpayers hiding their money in Switzerland and this Swiss bank having to pay back a very small portion of the amount they hid. And really why Collis is mad about why we even talk about these things 10 years after they happen, in which Milad kind of told me, hey, there's a lot of different things that have to happen before this information can be released, talked about, and people can start coming for their money. But these are some of the main topics we talked about today. If you're interested in hearing conversations around business topics, or if you are interested in business interviews with local Kansas City creatives, entrepreneurs, and business owners, please press the subscribe button, notification bell, leave a comment below. It is me, the man, the myth, the legend.